California slumbered. It was a vast land, Mexican territory. Few American settlers lived there. Missions dotted the coastline. Ranchos sprawled across fertile valleys. Life moved at a slower pace. Cattle grazed under the warm sun. The year was 1848. Change was coming. A change no one could predict. A change that would reshape a nation. James W. Marshall was a carpenter. He worked for John Sutter. Sutter owned a large sawmill. It was on the American River near Coloma. Marshall was building a new water wheel. On January 24th, something caught his eye. It glittered in the mill race. He picked it up. It was small, yellow, metallic. Could it be? He tested the shiny fleck. It was soft. It did not break. It was gold. Marshall showed it to Sutter. Sutter was cautious. He wanted to keep it quiet. News like this was hard to contain. Word began to leak out. Slowly at first, then, like a whisper turning into a roar. Gold. Gold in California. The news reached San Francisco. Sam Brannan, a storekeeper, saw an opportunity. He ran through the streets. He held a bottle of gold dust high. "Gold! Gold! Gold from the American River!" he shouted. The quiet life of California was over. The world was about to come rushing in. A new era had dawned. An era of gold. The cry of gold echoed. It traveled across the continent. It crossed vast oceans. People listened. They were farmers. They were clerks. They were doctors. They were dreamers. They were called 49ers. Most arrived in 1849. They left their homes. They left their families. They sought a new life, a life filled with riches. The journey was perilous. Many chose to sail. Some ships went around Cape Horn. A long, dangerous voyage. It took many months. Storms battered the vessels. Others sailed to Panama. They crossed the narrow isthmus through dense, diseased jungles. Then they waited for another ship, a ship to California. The wait could be agonizing. Others traveled overland. They gathered in wagon trains. They followed rough trails, the Oregon Trail, the California Trail. The journey was brutal. It stretched for thousands of miles. They faced scorching deserts. They crossed towering mountains. Accidents were common. Disease spread quickly. Many did not survive the trek. Their dreams died on the plains, yet they came. Tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. They were driven by hope. The hope of striking it rich. The allure of gold was powerful. It promised instant wealth. It promised a fresh start. California was the land of opportunity, a place where fortunes were made. Or so they believed. This was the Great Migration. California was unprepared. Its small population swelled. San Francisco was a sleepy village. It had a few hundred residents. Suddenly ships filled its bay. Tents covered its hills. It became a bustling, chaotic city, a gateway to the goldfields, a hub of commerce and frenzy. Prices for everything soared high. Mining camps sprang up like mushrooms. They appeared overnight in the foothills, near rivers, near streams. Wherever gold was rumored to be, names like Rough and Ready, Whiskey Town, Hangtown, these names told a story of wildness, a story of quick justice or injustice. Life was raw, unpredictable. These boom towns were temporary places, shanties, tents, wooden shacks. They were crowded, they were noisy, they were often lawless. When gold ran out in one spot, miners moved. The town might vanish, become a ghost town, a silent reminder of fleeting fortunes. The landscape itself began to change. Rivers were diverted, hillsides were scarred. The transformation was astonishing. California was no longer a remote outpost. It was the center of global attention. Its economy boomed, new businesses emerged. Supplying miners was profitable. Fortunes were made not just from gold, but from selling picks, selling shovels, selling food, selling dreams. California was being reborn, forged in the fire of the gold rush. Finding gold was hard work. It was back-breaking labor. Miners stood in cold streams for hours. They used simple tools, a pan, a pick, a shovel. They swirled dirt and water in a pan, hoping to see a fleck of color, the color of gold. This was panning. It was slow, it was tedious. More advanced methods developed. Rockers or cradles sifted more soil. Sluice boxes used running water to wash gold from gravel. Long toms were even larger. Miners worked in groups. They shared the labor. They shared the disappointment. They sometimes shared small fines. Every day was a gamble, a test of endurance. Living conditions were harsh. Miners lived in tents, or crude log cabins, or slept under the stars. Sanitation was poor. Clean water was scarce, disease was rampant, cholera, dysentery, scurvy. Medical care was limited or non-existent. Many miners died, not from accidents, but from sickness, far from home. Despite the hardships, there was hope. The dream of the big strike kept them going. A lucky find could change everything. It could make a man rich overnight. Small joys punctuated the struggle. A letter from home, a shared meal, a moment of camaraderie. But for most, the dream of riches remained elusive, a distant, glittering promise. The reality was mud and sweat. Section 5. A tapestry of seekers, the diverse faces of 49. The gold rush drew people from everywhere. It was a global phenomenon. Americans came from the East, from the South, and from the Midwest. They left farms and factories. They sought adventure and wealth. They formed the largest group, but they were not alone. The world was on its way. Immigrants arrived in droves from Mexico and Chile. They were experienced miners and knew the techniques. From China, thousands came, fleeing poverty and turmoil. They sought a better life and called California Gold Mountain. Europeans joined the rush from Britain, Germany, and France. Australians too crossed the Pacific. Each group brought its own hopes. The goldfields were a melting pot, a chaotic mix of cultures, languages, and customs. This diversity often led to tension and conflict. Prejudice was common. Foreign miners faced discrimination, especially the Chinese and Latin Americans. They were often driven from their claims, and unfair taxes were imposed on them. Competition for gold was fierce. Women were a small minority but played vital roles. Some came with their husbands, some came alone. They ran boarding houses, cooked meals, did laundry, opened shops, and some even mined for gold themselves. They brought a semblance of stability to the rough mining camps. Their contributions were essential. They were pioneers in their own right.
North and South, Medley.
Section 6. Forging a state gold, politics, and statehood. California's population exploded. Before gold, perhaps 15,000 non-native people. By 1850, over 100,000. By 1852, 250,000. This rapid growth created problems. There was no effective government. Military rule was inadequate. Lawlessness was widespread. Mining camps often made their own rules. Vigilante groups formed. The need for civil government was urgent. Californians wanted stability. They wanted order. They wanted statehood. In 1849, a constitutional convention was held. Delegates gathered in Monterey. They drafted a constitution. It outlawed slavery. This was a bold move. It had national implications. The nation was deeply divided over slavery. California applied for statehood. Congress debated fiercely. Southern states opposed admitting California as a free state. It would upset the balance of power between free and slave states. The debate raged for months. Henry Clay proposed a solution. The Compromise of 1850, a package of 5 separate bills. It was a fragile agreement. One part of the compromise was clear. California would enter the Union as a free state. On September 9, 1850, it happened. California became the 31st state. The gold rush had accelerated its path from remote territory to full statehood in just a few short years. This new state held immense promise and immense challenges for the nation. Section 7. The nation's coffers, gold's economic power. The amount of gold was staggering, hundreds of millions of dollars worth pulled from the earth in a few short years. This was new wealth. It poured into the American economy, it fueled growth, it financed expansion, it changed how America saw itself and how the world saw America. A young nation suddenly very rich. The gold funded development, it helped pay for infrastructure, roads were built, telegraph lines connected distant cities. The dream of a transcontinental railroad gained momentum. California gold would help finance it, linking east and west, binding the nation together. The economic impact was profound, it rippled across the country. The timing was critical. The Civil War was looming. The gold from California helped the Union. It provided a strong financial base. It bolstered the Union's credit. It helped pay for the war effort. This was an unforeseen consequence of Marshall's discovery at Sutter's Mill. Gold played a part in preserving the nation. Globally, California gold had an effect. It increased the world's gold supply. This influenced international trade. It stimulated economies far beyond America. The gold rush was not just a local event. It was a global economic force. It demonstrated America's growing power, its vast resources, its boundless potential. The nation was on the rise. Section 8. New fortunes, new lives beyond the mines. Not everyone who came for gold found it. In fact, most did not. Many miners left the goldfields disappointed, broke. But they did not all leave California. They saw other opportunities in this new, booming land. They decided to stay, to build new lives using different skills. Merchants often made more money than the miners themselves. They sold supplies at high prices: food, clothing, tools. Levi Strauss was one. He sold sturdy canvas pants to miners. These became known as blue jeans. Farmers found fertile land. They grew crops to feed the growing population. Agriculture became a new source of wealth. Artisans and laborers found work. Carpenters built homes and businesses. Blacksmiths shoed horses. Teamsters hauled goods. Towns needed services. Doctors, lawyers, teachers. Entrepreneurs thrived. They started businesses. They built industries. California became a place of innovation, a place to reinvent oneself, not just with gold. The environment paid a heavy price. Rivers were dammed and diverted. Hillsides were blasted with hydraulic mining. Forests were cut down for timber. Mercury used to extract gold poisoned waterways. The scars on the landscape were deep. Some remain visible today. This was the hidden cost of the frantic search for wealth. Progress came with consequences. Section 9. The Enduring Echo, the Lasting American Legacy. The gold rush was a brief period. It lasted only a few years, but its impact was immense. It transformed California forever. From a sparsely populated territory to a dynamic, diverse state, its population boomed, its economy diversified, its culture was forged in this frenzy, a culture of risk and reward. It accelerated America's westward expansion. The dream of manifest destiny became a reality. Thousands moved west, seeking fortune and a new life. The gold rush pulled the nation westward. It cemented America's claim to the Pacific coast. It shifted the country's center of gravity. The West was no longer a distant frontier. It was an integral part of the nation. The gold rush left a mark on the American spirit. It embodied the idea of opportunity, the belief that anyone could strike it rich through hard work and a bit of luck. It fostered a spirit of entrepreneurship, of daring, of individualism. This California dream became part of the American dream, a promise of a better future. Today, California still reflects its gold rush past. It is a state of innovation, a leader in technology, a magnet for dreamers. Its diversity is a direct legacy of the people who came from all corners, seeking gold, seeking a new beginning. The echoes of 1849 still resonate in the Golden State and across America, a story of hope, hardship, and transformation.